Greetings everybody, and welcome to the stream. Seeing a look at myself in the preview, I realise I need to cut my hair. So there you go. So I'm going to do something a little different today. MCDM, that's Matt Colville's company, if you hadn't realised, are currently doing a Kickstarter. There's only 3 days left. And they're kickstarting a monster book for D&D 5th edition called Flea Mortals. And so what I'm going to do is look through that book. Not that book, the preview of that book. They have a preview for free on their website. I probably ought to link to these things. Let's try that. Right. So. And of course, YouTube doesn't let you do simple links. So there's the Kickstarter, and this is the link to the preview if you want to follow along at home. And before I do any more of that, let's switch to the view of the stuff. There we go. Flea Mortals preview. So yeah, this is a monster book that uses a lot of their own design principles, stealing a lot from 4th edition, which I really like. I really like the monster design in 4th edition. Also, I haven't really looked at this preview. You went to bed super early on Tuesday. Wow. Well, you know, I didn't do much on Tuesday, so we're here now. What was I saying? Yes, I really like the monster design in 4th edition, and I wish they kept a lot more of that in 5th, but they didn't. But we have Matt Colville. I should point out there's 3 days left of the Kickstarter. They've already funded it, but there's the $2 million stretch goal, which, well, they've had a couple of proper stretch goals. One was 800,000, one was $1 million, which is basically extra stuff. It's going to be about a 300-page book. There's a $2 million stretch goal, which is they play one round of the campaign for North Africa, which is apparently a notorious role-playing game, of which one round takes about 10 hours. I'm not sure whether I'll watch that or not, I don't know. we'll see. I'm primarily interested in the book. So, as I say, they've already done a preview, and that's what we're going to go through. This is their version of an eye monster. A beholder! Right. And we will go through the credits, because credits are important. I'll let you read those. Hey, Mike! And you know, important legal bits and pieces. I'm not currently playing with Mike. I probably ought to make that more adaptable to the current situation. But yes, you should follow Mike. Nor does he in the stream 7 days a week anymore, because he's got a job. I feel this is my bot pointing out to me that I need to update my bot. So let's read the preface. Better monsters. That's really what we should call this book. Anyway, so this is James Intricasso, MCDM's lead designer, saying, when I first started working with MCDM as a freelancer in 2019, which doesn't seem that long ago, but it's 3 years, Matt shared with me his desire to make a creature book. At first I simply thought, cool, another book of new monsters, but I should have known better. This was MCDM, the company behind Strongholds and Followers, Kingdoms and Warfare, and the Illrigger. If you haven't heard of those, you should look them up. In fact, if you haven't heard Matt Colville, you should look him up. You know. And yes, I am aware at the moment I'm literally just talking to Kitten and Mike. You know. If anybody else happens to stumble upon this words, yeah, you should look it up. They took big swings. It didn't take long for Matt to reveal his full idea. This wouldn't just be any book with new creatures. This would be a book that could replace the one in the core game. It would offer new, more interesting takes on classic creatures, and add originals into the mix. When I was hired full-time at MCDM, Matt and I spoke about how this book could bring back fun stuff from previous editions, like companions, minions, tougher dragons, and easier encounter building rules. Basically all of what 4th edition did correctly. Right. Good. Words. And we wanted more stat blocks for common foes like goblins and humans. That's what Flea Mortals, the MCDM monster book, will be. Stuff we wish the core rules had to be used in place of or right alongside your core rulebook. Core rulebook. Words. Thanks for joining us for this little preview. We hope you like what you see, and if you do, be sure to check out the crowdfunding campaign. And I will link that again. Because, you know, if I had been any prepared at all, I would have put in a command for it. But I didn't, so you just get a link. Am I literally going to read through this? Yes, I'm literally going to read through this. I don't know how far we'll get. I may skip bits like specific NPCs and stuff. Basically, I haven't actually read this properly yet. So I thought, well, if I do a stream where I read through it, then I get to read through it. Good news! If you run 5th edition, then you already understand how to use most of the creatures in this book. That is good news. You may see a few unfamiliar details, but fear not. The tweaks we made to creature stat blocks don't take much time at all to grok. This book is organised into 3 sections. Bands contains creatures grouped by theme, like skeletal undead, or ancestry, like goblin, previewed in this document. Creatures in the same band work together and make it easy to build encounters. We'd like having an easy time building encounters. 2. Unique creatures don't belong to a band. Although they might ally words. We need to count for that. Hey, Mashy. Mash. Hello. They might ally themselves with one and aren't restricted to a single environment. Many of these creatures are MCDM's take on classic foes, while others are original. The Lightbender and the Overmind are in this preview. The Overmind being the eye beast thing that you see at the side on the front cover. Yes, welcome to the stream. If you weren't here when I was saying so, we are reviewing the preview for MCDM's new monster book, for which they are currently kickstartering. That's the right verb, kickstartering. It is now. The links above or below, because I'm above, so it's below. Okay, Mike. Have a good evening. Thank you, kitten. Right. 3rd section. Encounter environments. Environments present themed creatures for places where combat encounters typically occur. This doesn't usually mean broad environments like mountain or jungle, but more specific locations like an evil temple, enchanted wood, or graveyard. The latter of which is partially previewed in this document. Thanks for your look, Mike. Challenge ratings and roles. I'm using the mouse wheel, or will be using the mouse wheel. It makes quite a bit of sound. I don't know if you can hear it. If you can hear it, I apologise. Challenge ratings and roles. Each creature's stat block lists their challenge rating and role in the top right corner. The more obvious placement of the challenge rating makes it easier to find stat blocks and build encounters to challenge your players. Each creature has a role listed next to their challenge rating. Roles are descriptive and typically don't include rules. Most simply help you build encounters and utilize the creature effectively in combat. This book includes the following creature roles. Ambusher. Ambushers are creatures that hide well, not just before an encounter, but during it. They utilize surprise and stealth to gain the upper hand. Examples of ambushers include the Goblin Assassin and the Lightbender. like Mender being a custom thing that they made. Artillery. Artillery creatures fight best from afar. Whether they wield arrows or magical rays, these creatures always try to keep a distance from their foes. Examples of artillery creatures include the Goblin Sniper and the Overmind. Brute. It's important to roll your R's. I can't do it now. Brutes are hardy creatures who have lots of hit points and deal lots of damage. They might not be the most disciplined warriors, but they make up for it in sheer toughness and aggression. Examples of brutes include the Goblin Spine Cleaver and War Spider. Companion. Companion creatures are meant to accompany player characters on adventures. For more information, see Companion Creatures, which is linked. But we'll look at that later. Controller. Controllers debuff, move, and obstruct their enemies. They often have crowd control actions that target multiple creatures at once, or apply a debilitating effect to a target. The Goblin Curse Splitter is an example of a controller. Now, I don't have my headphones on. I'm assuming you can all hear music. Yes. Let me know if the music's too loud, too quiet, you know. I probably should have said that at the start. I didn't, because I am a professional streamer. Thank you. Right. Leader. A leader is an action-oriented creature that fights alongside underlings. For more information, see action-oriented creatures, which is later in the preview. Also, an MCDM thing. Minion. Minions are weak creatures that find strength in numbers. For more information, see Minions. I'm sensing a theme here. Retainers. Retainers are humanoids meant to accompany player characters on adventures. For more information, see Retainers. Skirmishers are mobile warriors that use hit and run tactics in combat. Their traits allow them to make the most of their position. Examples of skirmishers include the Goblin Warrior and Skittling. Soldier. Soldiers are well-armoured creatures that draw the attacks of their foes, freeing allies to move around the battle. These trained warriors typically have higher attack bonuses and AC. The Swarm Skittlings is an example of a soldier creature. Words. I really should have made a counter. Solo. A solo creature is an action-oriented creature that can take on the player characters on their own. For more information, see action-oriented creatures. Support. Support creatures aid their allies, providing buffs, healing, movement, or action options. The Goblin Boss is an example of a support creature. Of course, all these I've mentioned will be later in preview. Almost. No, they should all be in. Section structure. In this book, creature sections begin with broad descriptions for all the creatures in that section, which is handy. While not all the information is common in character knowledge, you can share these early pages with your players if you don't mind them having a little meta-knowledge. I personally, as a player, enjoy having meta-knowledge. It allows me as a player to better prepare me as a character for scenarios that are coming up. Other players don't like spoilers. There you go. The creature stat blocks aren't presented until the end of each section, allowing you to share flavourful information with your players while keeping stat block spoilers to yourself. Useful. In addition, keeping stat blocks together means flipping fewer pages when you run a band of similar creatures. Also useful. Although most of these, because I tend to run online games, will be ported over to some kind of virtual tabletop. Words. Apparently there are plans to support Roll20, Foundry and Fantasy Grounds. However, but those will come later and they will cost additional money. I will probably get those modules as appropriate. Thank you, kitten. Yes, we are reading through Flea Mortals preview for the MCDM Kickstarter. New rules. Action-oriented creatures, companions, retainers and minions use new rules that can be found starting on page 18 of this preview. We're on page 4. It's going to take us a while. We're reading. Yes, so MCDM, the company headed by Matt Colwell. They do D&D stuff. They are running a Kickstarter of which there is 3 days remaining. I know. Ooh, reading. And they are kickstarting this monster book for D&D 5th edition. Yeah, so am I. Hence why we should have had a words counter for every time I muck up. Yes. So, first on the creature stats for this preview, and we're looking at goblins. So, like all humanoid ancestries, there are many different goblins and goblin cultures, each with their own ideals. Known to themselves as Rogabrin, meaning more of us in goblin, they are one of the most numerous humanoids in the world. They can be found in every environment humans occupy and places many other avoid, like deep cave systems. Their proportionately long arms and prehensile words toes make them equally well adapted to arboreal environments, which I think is polar environments. I didn't realise I was going to have to start looking at words. Thank you for the lurk fire. Enjoy your flight. What prehensible. Yeah. There we go. Goblins live comfortably in treetop cities and subterranean environments with stalactites, ledges, prehensile. Thank you, kitten. Ledges and chasms. Others prefer to dwell in tight-knit neighbourhoods of diverse cities. Those goblins that cross swords with adventuring heroes are the worst of the bunch. Thieves and murderers shunned by their own people and driven to live on society's outskirts. Encountered in groups. In society and in exile, goblins survive and thrive because they work together. A single goblin forced into the wild is terrified. A dozen outlaw goblins are supremely, and perhaps overly, confident. Such groups often become bandits that ambush travellers in their territories, be it desert, forest, or underground. Larger bands may become unscrupulous mercenaries, serving powerful villains. No matter how they're encountered, goblins prefer to fight as an overwhelming force and flee when foes outnumber friends. Mobile and sneaky. Short, lithe, and long-armed, goblins are built for mobility, stealth, and climbing. Goblins that survive life in untamed wilderness and twisting caves utilize their natural agility to hide from threats and flee when found. These crafty skirmishers might run wild through battle, hacking at their enemies' knees, or unleash arrows as they dart from tree to tree. Goblin magic. Some exiled goblins forge pacts with evil entities, archfey, deities, fiends, for magic power. Goblin assassins conjure darkness made from the souls of their victims, while goblin curse spitters hurl magic hexes that keep their enemies at bay. Goblin retainers. Heroic goblins sometimes join adventuring parties as retainers. Their lithe forms allow them to support their allies as stealthy, mobile rogues. Skitterling. A six-legged winged rodent the size of a house cat. Lithe? Yeah, as in slim. Slight. Lithe. Yeah. Except spelled with an I, not a Y. I mean, it might be spelled with a Y in English rather than American. Live. Right. A six-legged, winged rodent the size of a house cat, a skitterling moves their clawed feet as they fly, appearing to scurry through the air. Goblins train these pets to claw at the faces of enemies as their feet secrete a toxin that causes temporary blindness. No, it's fine. I get to learn how to pronounce words, you know? We might have to take a tea break more often though. Because talking dries your throat out. Talking dries your throat out. I can speak. I haven't had a long day. Honest. Right. The war spider. Goblins ride enormous arachnids as mounts in battle. The war spider's bladed legs skitter over enemy forces, while archers fire from atop a platform on the beast's back. During raids, the spider flicks their abdomen to launch warriors off their back and into the fray. That sounds cool. It's the rules. As soon as you're on stream, you lose the ability to word. Yeah. Although I do that quite often in reality anyway, as you're well aware. Words are hard, yes. I am regretting actually not making a counter for the number of times I muck up. Because we're about 20 already. Queen Bargno. I'm pronouncing it like it's French. Yes, indeed, kitten. Queen Bargno, scourge of the high road, leads the jagged edge goblins in pillaging caravans. Before her rise, the goblins struggled, attacking only the weakest travellers in unorganised strikes. When she killed her boss and became the band's self-proclaimed queen, everything changed. The jagged edges dug a sprawling network of tunnels in the soft earth beneath the high road. Secret entrances allow the goblins to make coordinated strikes and disappear before their victims can organise against them. When not planning a raid, Queen Bargno's warriors train, rewarding the best and punishing the lazy. Queen Bargno surrounds herself with warriors. She initially wades into battle with them, then moves back when half her hit points remain to command from safety. Stat blocks. This section contains stat blocks for various goblins, along with their skittlings and war spiders. I hadn't thought about how to read these stat blocks out, so we'll just sort of do a broad look over them, I think, and then go through the action. So we have Goblin Assassin. As with the new way of doing things in 5th edition, specified any alignment because it's a free-thinking being and therefore you can encounter them of any environment. They wear studded leather. Reasonable hit points. High dex, which makes sense for an assassin. Reasonable constitution. Hey Fliss! Welcome to the stream. We are doing a reading stream today. We're going through MCDM's Flea Mortals, which is or the preview for it, which is a Kickstarter they're doing at the moment. It's got 3 days left. It's already funded and kicking. And it's basically their 5th edition monster book. Right, so common stuff, they're stealthy. Ooh, what climb speed? Now that's interesting. Stealthy, standard dark vision, backstab. When the assassin has advantage on their attack roll against a creature that isn't a construct, or undead, makes sense, their attacks deal an extra 1d6 and inflict a bleeding wound on the target that lasts until the bleeding creature regains at least 1 hit point. A bleeding creature loses 2 hit points for each bleeding wound they have at the start of their turn. Any creature can use an action to staunch all the target's wounds, ending the effect. Nice. So, 5th edition, as a general rule, does not include damage over time. Which 4th edition did a fair amount of. Yeah, a number of previous editions did a fair amount of. But 5th generally doesn't, unless you have some kind of save or a concentration spell. So, introduction of damage over time. It's a cool way of doing it, actually. Because it means that even slight wounds can have a devastating effect, even at high level. The assassin does not provoke opportunity attacks when they move out of an enemy's reach, so it's crafted. So that's a common trait that a lot of these sort of creatures had in 4th edition. They'd have a shifty ability, or an ability to shift. And in 4th edition, shift was you could move a single square or 5 feet, which without provoking attacks of opportunity, which basically gets you out of range, and then you can move. This is the same sort of thing, although it just says it has the same overall effect. They have scimitars and daggers, and once per day they can summon shadows. A 10-foot radius sphere of magical darkness from a point they can see for 1 minute. Assassin can see in this magical darkness at the start of their turn. They can move the darkness up to 30 feet to a point they can see. If the assassin takes damage, the effect ends. Okay, that's quite a cool ability. So this was also something that 4th edition did. Rather than give creatures spells, they give them spell-like abilities. This is a prime example. I mean, yes, this is not 4th edition, but you know what I mean. A prime example were it in 4th edition. So you've got this sort of spell-like ability, and it has a sort of simulated concentration. Basically, if they take damage, it ends. So it's a simple way of doing concentration. Bonus actions, sneak. They can hide as a bonus action. Yeah, makes sense for an assassin. Right, a boss. So the CR2 support creature. More heavily armoured. Okay, more hit points. Again, pretty dexterous. These are higher levels because they start having a fair number of skills. Insight, Intimidation, Stealth. Dark Vision. Also crafty. Multi-attack. Makes sense. So 2 short sword attacks or short bow attacks. And they can use command and place a 1 attack. Okay? You'd expect this from a boss. It can do more attacks. Short sword, short bow, standard stuff. Command. The boss chooses 1 ally they can see within 30 feet of them. If the target can hear the boss, the target can use their reaction to move up to their speed or make 1 weapon attack. So basically they can use their reaction to move or attack out of turn. That's kind of cool. Bonus action, Get Reckless. Each willing ally within 30 feet of the boss that can hear them becomes reckless until the start of the boss's next turn. While reckless, a creature has advantage on attack rolls, and attack rolls against the creature have advantage. Okay, so it's kind of like the barbarian thing, reckless attack. You have advantage, but they also have advantage. So you get more chance of hitting, but you're also more vulnerable. Until the start of the boss's next turn. Okay? And it's any ally that happens to be willing. Recharges on the 6th. So likelihood of recharging once every 6 rounds. Probably only use it once in a battle. Reactions. Cowardly Commander. When a creature the boss can see hits them with an attack, the boss chooses a willing ally within 5 feet of them. The attack hits the ally instead. Cool defensive ability. Okay. Curse Splitter. For a controller. Standard armor. Ooh, with a shield. Interesting. Reasonable hit points. Charisma. Okay. So they are charisma casters. Again, reasonable stealth. Again, crafty. Right. Toxic Touch. Melee or ranged spell attack. Range 30 feet. 1 target. Poison damage. And Constitution save for additional poison. Save ends at end of turn. Okay, so during the course of the 1 minute, if you make a save, you can make a save at each of your end of turns. Ends of turn, and you can save. It's another way of doing ongoing damage. Fairly straightforward. Brittle Bone Hex. The Curse Splitter chooses 1 creature they can see within 60 feet of them. The target's bones are racked with pain until the end of their next turn. The first time the target willingly moves or uses an action, bonus action, or reaction, before then they must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or take 2d8 necrotic damage. Interesting. Okay, so that only applies once. That's cool. To me, the Curse Splitter chooses up to 2 willing allies they can see within 30 feet of them. Each creature is teleported to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the Curse Splitter. Okay? Basically saying, come and protect me. Like that. Cool. Dizzying Hex twice per day. The Curse Splitter chooses one creature they can see within 60 feet of them. The target must make a DC 12 Wisdom save. On a failed save, the target falls prone and can't stand up for 1 minute. Save ends. That is quite devastating. Although you can still do stuff whilst prone. It's not a stun, so you're not taking them out of the action. But it does mean that if you're surrounded by melee creatures, they then get advantage on you because you're prone. So that could be quite devastating against a melee creature that's surrounded by other creatures. And then we've got the same Cowardly Commander thing again. Okay. Goblins and magic items. Goblin bandits sometimes plunder magic items that aid in their profession. Quick and nimble, goblins benefit from magic items that enhance their other abilities, like a headband of intellect or a potion of giant strength. Items that grant new powers, such as a broom of flying or a ring of telekinesis, make for memorable, surprising goblin encounters. Interesting. I hadn't actually thought about giving creatures magic items, except for specific NPCs. Except for potions of healing. Goblins lucky enough to have a stash of potions of healing often include a potion of poison among them to punish greedy thieves. That's cunning. So you kill a goblin, they've got a lot of potions on them, and you go, oh, they look like potions of healing. And you drink one and you end up being poisoned. Biscuit would love this. And what we should do is point Biscuit to the Kickstarter within the next 3 days. All he's got to do is donate $1 and he'll get in on it, even if he can't afford the 40 for the book itself initially. And then, yeah, he can pay the rest when it comes to the Pledge Manager later on. He's not here yet, probably another hour or so. Yeah, I'll probably still be reading in an hour. We're only on page 6. Goblin Minion. Now, we'll get to what minions are and how they work in a bit. They're further down in the rules. Although I think you got the description here. Can you actually see my mouse pointer, by the way? That's a good question. Am I waving it around for no reason? Well, you can see it. Sometimes. Yeah. Okay. There's also no point me pointing at the screen, because you can't see that. Although it's quite entertaining. To point at something you can't see. If it's not moving too fast, yes, we see it. Yeah, because of course it changes when it goes over text, so it's actually quite hard to see. So, Goblin Minion. Armor class 14. It's okay. Thanks for the lurk, Fliss. Hit point 6. There's a caveat to that 6, which we'll get onto in a minute. Crafty, doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. Minion. If the minion takes damage from an attack or as the result of a failed saving throw, their hit points are reduced to 0. If the minion takes damage from another effect, they die if the damage equals or exceeds their hit point maximum. Otherwise, they take no damage. So this is the sort of caveat. Basically, if they're hit or they suffer a spell attack and fail, they're dead. So it's roughly a one-hit thing. But if there's another effect, so I don't know. I can't think of another effect. But if there's another effect and it removes 6 or more hit points, then they die. But if it doesn't, they don't take any damage. So as if they have 1 hit point. But the idea of having 6 hit points comes into it later for the overkill damage. Daggers. They have daggers. Daggers are fairly simple. Tiny stabs. I missed the tiny stabs. If a visible enemy starts their turn within 5 feet of 3 or more goblin minions. Words. The enemy must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take 1 piercing damage for each goblin minion within 5 feet. So basically, if you're surrounded, you get stabbed multiple times before you even start your turn. The DC for this saving throw equals 10 plus number of goblin minions within 5 feet. So that's going to be a minimum 13. And it could go as high as 18. Still possible to pass that, but you know. And then dagger attacks. Right. We'll do goblin tactics and then we'll go back up. Goblin tactics. Goblins benefit from fighting in environments with features to climb on and hide behind, like trees and pillars. The crafty trait means melee-focused goblins run into combat, attack, then regroup with their allies. It also allows goblin minions to run past enemy warriors and surround their spell-casting foes. Ooh. To make use of their tiny stab trait. Goblins who fight at range climb for better sightlines and defense. Oh, yeah, because if you don't provoke opportunity attacks, you can just run past the front line. That's intriguing. So you basically just throw a horde of goblins. They just run through, take out your spellcaster to start with, which then forces your melee characters to retreat to protect the spellcasters. That's cunning. Goblin Sniper. Dex. So they're ranged. Lowish armor, lowish hit points. Perception. Stealth. Stuff. Also crafty. Sniper. If the sniper misses with a ranged weapon attack while they are hidden, they remain hidden. That's cool. Additionally, if the sniper hits the target with a ranged weapon attack While they have advantage on attack roll, the attack deals an extra 1d6 damage. So it's kind of a sniper's sneak attack-ish. Which is cool. Daggers. Makes sense to have a dagger in addition to a short bow. Sneak. The sniper takes the hide action as a bonus. Also makes sense. Oh, and the nice thing about these. Cool art. Look at him holding the arrow in his teeth. Isn't that cool? Right, Goblin Spine Cleaver. Hide armor, reasonable amount of hit points. Strength based. Crafty, strong grip. The spine cleaver's small size does not impose a disadvantage on attack rolls with heavy weapons. So it can use heavy weapons. It's a brute. Cool. Which means that it does more damage on attacks. Okay. Great axe. There you go, 1d12 plus 3. It's quite a lot. Hand axe. If you lose your great axe. There we go. Tricksy Warrior. When a creature within 5 feet of the spine cleaver misses them with an attack, the spine cleaver can make a melee attack against the creature with disadvantage. That's cool. So it's a case of, okay, it's a reaction, so it's once per round. And it's not like an opportunity attack either. So, yeah, so it's a semi taking advantage of a missed attack, but with disadvantage. So it may not be worth using if, for instance, you want an attack of opportunity. Depends how clever your players are being. It's an interesting idea. Goblin Warrior. So this is your standard skirmisher. Reasonable amount of armor class and hit points. Okay, getting dex based. Crafty, short sword, short bow. One range, one finesse. So, is it finesse or light? Both. Fleetfoot. When a creature within 5 feet of the warrior misses them with a melee attack, the warrior can move up to half their speed. Also interesting. I like these little variations. It can add... just that little thing can add a lot of interest to a battle. Skittling. Tiny beast. Dex with some wisdom. Flyby. Skittling does not provoke opportunity attacks. Imagine having something like Sentinel as a feat, and you face a load of goblins, and you cannot use it because you don't get attacks of opportunity. We can't use one of its effects anyway. Claws. Okay. Melee, one target, one slashing damage. Okay, so it's annoying flying things, but they only do 1 damage. Target must succeed on DC 10, Constitution saving throw, or become blinded. That's why it's only 1 damage. They scratch at the eyes. Creatures that are immune to poison damage or the poison condition automatically succeed. So it's not the scratches. It is the scratches, but there's poison scratches. Yeah, interesting. Swarm of skittlings. Whole bunch of resistances. Makes sense for a swarm, to be honest. In your face. While the swarm occupies an enemy space, that creature has disadvantage on attack rolls made against any target other than the swarm, and takes 1d6 slashing damage if they attack a creature other than the swarm. Cool. The swarm can occupy another creature's space, and vice versa. That's a typo. Yeah, I found a typo. And the swarm can move through any opening large enough for a tiny skittling. The swarm can't regain hit points or gain temporary hit points. That makes sense. So, once you've knocked it down, you've knocked it down. Claws. So there's more slashing damage, with less if it's at half hit points. That's cool. And still the blinded stuff, but no more difficult. Makes sense. War Spider. Anybody who doesn't like spiders, there's a drawing. War Spider, huge beast. Natural armor, a lot of hit points, fast speed, strong, lots of constitution. Baby Burst. What a name for an effect. When the war spider dies, a swarm of spiders, bursts forth from their remains and acts on the same initiative count as the spider initiative. Yeah, it's cool. Rider Launcher. An allied rider that jumps off the spider has a long jump of 30 feet and a high jump of 15 feet, with or without a running start. If an allied rider jumps off the spider, the first melee weapon attack the ally makes on the same turn has advantage, because you're jumping off and attacking in the air. Well, that's cool. Spider Climb. The spider can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without needing to make an ability check. Standard spider stuff. Web Walker. The spider ignores movement restrictions caused by webbing. Standard spider stuff. Wideback. 2 small or tiny creatures can share a space while riding the spider, allowing up to 18 small or 64 tiny creatures to ride the spider at once. That is a lot of creatures. It's like an armored personnel carrier. Which is quite cool. Bite. Standard bite. Bladed legs. So it's got blades on the legs, which can do slashing damage. Web spray. The spider sprays webbing from their abdomen. A 15-foot cube. Each creature in the area must succeed on a dex saving throw or become restrained. A creature can use their action to make a strength DC 13 strength or dex check, freeing themselves or another creature they can reach on a success. Okay, standard restraint stuff. Trample. Spider can move up to their speed and move through the spaces of other creatures. The spider can make one bladed leg attack against each creature whose space they move into during the move. The creature hit by this attack can't take reactions until the start of their next turn. That's a cool effect. So it doesn't have multi-attack, but it can do this trample where it basically gets a free hit on every creature it tramples. Right. Queen Bargno. Well armoured. Reasonable hit points. Dex based. Crafty doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. Take my pain. 3 times per day. When Queen Bargno fails a saving throw against a spell or effect, she can choose a willing creature within 30 feet of her. Queen Bargno succeeds on the saving throw. The creature is targeted with the same spell or effect as if they were in her space. They automatically fail their saving throw. Right. So that's basically legendary resistance, but with a penalty, which is much cooler than book standard legendary resistances. And Matt was talking about this in the video for the book, in that nobody likes legendary resistances. They're dull, they're a cheap trick of... Yeah, they're a cheap trick to sort the maths out, make things tougher. And there's no... When you're playing a game against a character that has legendary resistances, it's... You just... It's just a sort of thinking game. Yeah, okay, it's probably got 3 legendary resistances. We fired a moderate spell at it that they've used 1. They got 2 left. Okay, let's waste some spells to get rid of those. And then we can fire our most powerful spells. That sort of thing. It just delays things without adding interest. So this is quite a cool workaround. Actions. Multi-attack. 3 attacks with short sword or 2 with the short bow. Cool. And those are standard. Bonus actions. Get in here. Queen Bargno shouts for aid, and 1d4 goblin minions appear in unoccupied spaces within 60 feet of her. You know, that's... I actually tried that particular bonus action out in one of my games. It was in my charity game last year. It kind of worked in that case, but it threw the players a bit. Because they didn't know where these things were coming from. I like the fact that this is minions, and there's 1d4 of them. So basically you're getting an extra bunch of minions every round, or potentially. Reactions. No dying. When a willing creature Queen Bargno can see within 30 feet of her is reduced to 0 hit points, she can choose to have them reduced to 1 hit point instead. Basically a death ward, by another name. but uses a reaction. Villain actions. So this is also an MCDM thing. This is the action-oriented monsters thing, which they explain later. But it's an idea of having specific actions at specific points in the encounter. They're kind of legendary actions, but also kind of not. And they're designed to be done in order at certain rounds that give an arc to the combat, and a little bit of extra dramatic arc to it. Which I think is quite cool. I would like to sort of extend the concept to just have sort of encounter actions. That's much harder to codify. But rather than it being actions by a specific creature, I like the idea of having an arc to an encounter in general. But, I mean, if you're talking here, this is CR3, so it's not a legendary creature by any chance, by any means. So, actually, you're giving the ability to have that sort of thing even at the lowest level, which is cool. Right, Queen Wagner has 3 villain actions. She can take each action once during an encounter, after an enemy creature's turn. Right, so like legendary actions. She can take these actions in any order, but can only use 1 per round. Typically, the expectation is that you use them in order. Probably the first one for the first round, second for the second round, third for the third round. And general expectation is the combat will probably not last much longer than 3 rounds. And so, therefore, the third action is quite dramatic. Action 1. What are you waiting for? Each creature of Queen Bardno's choice within 60 feet of her that can hear her can move up to their speed or make a melee weapon attack. No action required. So it's free positioning and or attack. First round. Action 2. Focus fire. Queen Bardno chooses an enemy she can see within 60 feet of her. Queen Bardno and each creature of her choice within 60 feet of her that can hear her can move up to their speed towards the target. No action required. So it's basically a case of, I want you to attack that one. Basically, any creature that's within range that can hear her will use their movement to get there. And the idea being that when they take their turn, that creature's surrounded. Action 3. Kill. Each creature of Queen Bardno's choice within 60 feet of her that can hear her can make a weapon attack with advantage, no action required. If the attack hits, it deals an extra 1d6 damage. Wow. So this is the real we're cornered kind of action that goes, right, everyone can hear me, if you're within range, attack. And it does more damage. That's cool. Goblin Sneak. This is the retainer, so it levels up. Right, so armor class, reasonable, 9 times their level. Nine plus 9 times the level. Okay. Yep. Standard speed, primary ability, Dex. I've not actually looked into retainers much. They came in, I think, in strongholds and followers, which I do have. Again, I've not really read it properly. Maybe I should do one of these streams then. Do one of these streams on that. That would be interesting. Right, signature attack, daggers. Attacks with daggers. Right. And then you've got 3 features as they level up. So weaving knives, as an action, the sneak moves up to their speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Before, during, or after the move, they can make 2 signature attacks. Okay, so 3 times a day, they've got multi-attack. An extra move. Cool. 5th level, sneak and stab. As a bonus action, the sneak takes the hide action. If the sneak hits a creature they are hidden from with an attack on the same turn, the creature takes an additional piercing damage, and the sneak can immediately hide again. Okay. So, hide, pop out, stab, pop in. Cool. 3 times a day. Level 7, Poison Blade, once a day. As a bonus action, the sneak covers a dagger in a special poison, which lasts for an hour or until they hit a creature with a signature attack. Okay. Creature hit with the poison dagger must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, they take a lot of poison damage. And it's poison for a minute. Save ends at the end of turn. Okay? On a successful save, the target only takes half damage and yeah. Okay, usual rules. Light Benders. Now this is a new creature. Okay. So we've basically done the goblins now. Which I think probably means it's time for a break. And I can go and moisten my throat with more tea because it's going cold. Take a bathroom break and then be back for some more. How's that sound? Is anybody actively watching? We've got a lot of viewers. Although Twitch won't tell me. Now it will. There we go. Yeah, a lot of viewers. Cool. Right, folks, we are going to take a few minutes for a break. I will be right back. And then we will carry on with the light benders stuff and the further ancillary rules. Okay, be back. welcome back. We return with more tea. Right. Thank you, Gav, by the way, for the host. Much appreciated. D. Yes, indeed. Right. We'll go through the light bender, and then I will skip to some of the rules, because I only want to do, I don't want to go past 10:30, because I've got things to do before I go to bed. So yeah, we'll do this, and then we'll go and have a look. Scroll further down and have a look at some of the other rules, and maybe some other time we'll come back and do the rest, because I'm actually quite enjoying this. It always seems silly to start with, to go, I'm going to read through a thing live on stream. Anybody can read it themselves, but you know, actually it's quite fun. I hope you people are enjoying it. So, light benders. Prowling deserts, plains, forests, and any other sun-soaked wilderness, lightbenders are ferocious predators that have adapted to skillfully stalk prey in daylight. This monstrous creature's fur bends and refracts light from the surrounding environment, producing mirages that distract and confuse their prey, hence the name. Hidden hunters. At a distance, a lightbender looks akin to a regular lion, but closer inspection reveals that their glowing eyes, iridescent mane, and pair of lashing tails spiked with refractive crystals. You can tell that these are written by somebody who likes writing, enjoys writing. The lightbender's pelt magically warps light around them to disguise their movement, allowing them to teleport while leaving behind a past visual imprint. Unsuspecting prey rarely realize that they're staring at an afterimage of the lightbender until the fearsome creature pounces. That is also cool. Prized mane. Both male and female lightbenders have the distinctive mane, which is highly prized for its light-displacing qualities, and can be fashioned into a mantle of the lightbender, though only a few mages possess the knowledge to do so. Protective companions. Although lightbenders are typically solitary creatures, they sometimes cross into another lightbender's territory to help protect a newborn litter of kittens. It's not typical. A few people have succeeded in taming lightbenders as guards or hunting animals, and if treated well, they can make for loyal protectors, often viewing their smaller humanoid companions as surrogate kittens. Mantle of the Lightbender. Wondrous item, uncommon, requires attunement. This elegant cloak is lined with the iridescent mane of a lightbender. When you're hit with an attack while wearing this cloak, you can use your reaction to reveal that the attacker is attacking. No, right. When you're hit with an attack while wearing this cloak, you can use your reaction to reveal that the attacker is attacking a past visual imprint of you. You appear in an unoccupied space you can see within 30 feet of your imprint. The attack misses, then the imprint disappears. You can't use this reaction if the attacker relies on senses other than sight, such as blind sight, or if they can perceive illusions as false, such as with true sight. Adding words in. Once you use the cloak to reveal a past visual imprint of yourself, you can't do so again until the next dawn. Makes sense. Who are you wearing? A lightbender can become enraged in the presence of a creature wearing the mantle of the lightbender and attack mercilessly. Lightbender companions often refuse to adventure with characters who wear such a magical item. At the GM's discretion, the mane of a lightbender companion can't be used to create the mantle because the companion's experience living among other creatures leave them with a smaller mane, and also to prevent wrenches from hacking their friend to pieces. Yes, that certainly makes sense. Allowing for troll players is always a good idea. Right, stat block. It's a large monstrosity. Okay? Natural armor, reasonable hit points. This is the monster stat block. The companion stat block will be further down, I think. Strength based, reasonable dex, good constitution. Passive perception, that's good. Avoidance. If the lightbender is subject to an effect that allows them to make a saving throw to take only half damage, they instead take no damage. If they succeed on the saving throw and only half, they fail. So evasion, essentially. Pounce. If the lightbender moves at least 20 feet straight towards the creature and then hits them with a claw attack on the same turn, that target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. If the target is prone, the lightbender can make one bite attack against them as a bonus action. That's not clear. Is that if the target is already prone or if they knock them prone? Actions. Multi-attack. 1 bite, 2 claw. Or the tail. I like that. So the main monster manual often doesn't give you an option. So the smaller dragons, for instance, they'll have a bite and claw, or a bite and tail, but it doesn't give you the option of going, well, you can do 2 attacks, and you've got to pick one of these. Or is it this 1 bite and 2 claw attacks, or the tail note twice? Again, that's not clear. What is that in order to? Is it 1 bite and 2 tail whips? Or the tail whips instead of the 1 bite and 2 claw attacks? Anyway, I like having those options. Because for me, when you've got a creature with all these appendages, even when they're small, saying, okay, they've got multi-attack, they've got a choice of options. It's not, they always do this and that every turn. That's cool. Hypnotic Main, once per day. Lightbender discharges the light absorbed in their main into a brilliant, mesmerizing display. Each creature within 15 feet must make a successful Wisdom saving throw or be charmed for 1 minute. While charmed, the creature is incapacitated and has a speed of 0. If a creature charmed in this way takes damage, or if somebody else uses an action to shake them, the condition ends. Okay. Reactions after image. When the Lightbringer is hit by an attack, they can reveal that the attacker is attacking a past visual imprint of Lightbender. Lightbender appears in an unoccupied space 30 feet away. The attack misses, and then the imprint dissipates. Can't use this reaction if the attacker relies on other senses. Now, this is the interesting thing. So that's the same effect as with the mental, except the mental you can only do it once per day. This is a reaction, so they can do it every turn. Every turn. So that basically means one attack every turn is going to miss. That's interesting. Might be frustrating. But then you'd know that if you were going against a Lightbender. Or you should. You should do your research. Right, Lightbender Companion. So sometimes the caregiver's value, so it levels with you. Keen Smell has advantage on perception checks that rely on smell. Okay, signature attack. Bite. First level. Okay, so this uses the ferocity mechanic, which also comes up. It comes from the beta, but probably explain later. So a companion that uses ferocity gains ferocity due to certain things, which I think is explained later, and you have to spend it. Otherwise, if it gets to a certain point, they go into some kind of sort of ferocious rage and you lose control of them. Temporarily. So, Tail Whip. First level, the Lightbender makes a signature attack on a hit. The attack deals an extra proficiency bonus radiant damage to the target, and different creature the Lightbender chooses within 15 feet of them takes 18 damage. Okay. So it's basically just additional radiant damage, right? Third level, Silent Bounce. The Lightbender teleports 30 feet to an unoccupied space. Before or after teleporting, they can make a signature attack. If the attack hits, the target is not prone. Okay, so that's a kind of extended charge. We'll read that sidebar in a minute. Hypnotic Main. Each creature within 10 feet must make a successful wisdom saving throw or be charmed until the end of the Lightbender's next turn. So these are different because it's a companion, so it's an ally. So it's not as severe. Because that will give the players too much of an advantage. While charmed, same effects as before. Reactions. Shared after image. When the Lightbender and their caregiver are within 30 feet of each other, and one of them is hit by an attack, the Lightbender reveals that both they and their caregiver are past visual imprints, and they appear in an unoccupied space within 30 feet. The attack misses and the imprint disappears. You can't use this reaction if the attacker relies on senses. Blah. Once per day. I was waiting for that. Yeah, once per day. Okay, Mystic Connection, Lightbender. If you're playing a Beast Heart, which is the custom class that MCDM have made, kind of a new Beastmaster, but it's its own class. You have a Lightbender companion, you gain the following benefit at 9th level. So if you're a Beast Heart, so this specific sort of Beastmaster class, then you get an additional 9th level connection. As a unleash sunlight. As a bonus action, you cause your skin to flare with brilliant light. Each creature of your choice within 10 feet of you that can see you must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against each creature of your choice. That's important. Against your exploit, save DC or become blinded for 1 minute. Save ends at end of turn. You can't use this as a benefit again until you finish a long rest. Makes sense. Overmind, we're going to skip that, although the art's cool. Graveyards and tombs, corpse collector. Okay, so we have additional creatures for a specific environment. Now we get some new rules. Stop for a tea drink. Right. I'll read this properly. New rules. Looking through the stat blocks in this preview, you probably notice some unfamiliar terms. These describe new rules designed to make combat encounters easier to run, more fun, and more memorable. While there are only a few examples in this document, the final version of Flee Mortals will feature lots of action-orientated creatures, companions, retainers, and minions. Save ends effects. Some creatures have a trait or action that on failing a saving throw imposes a debilitating effect for an extended duration. Words. But sometimes a lucky foe can retry their saving throw and potentially end the effect early. In such situations, the stat block specifies save ends at start of turn or save ends at end of turn. When you see this phrase, it means any creature affected by a save ends effect like this can repeat the saving throw on each of their turns, ending the effect on themselves early on a success. They can only make this saving throw either at the start or end of their turn, as specified in the stat block. Here's an example of an attack with a save ends effect from the Goblin Curse Splitter stat block. Toxic Touch. Hit. On hit, poison damage, and the target must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or be poisoned for 1 minute. Save ends at end of turn. Behind the design, save ends effects. I like this. So the fact that they add in a behind the scenes explanation in a sidebar. It's not a sidebar. I'll call it a sidebar. Whatever they're called when they're, yeah, you know. Save ends effects are one way of saving space in stat blocks and making them less complex for GMs to run at the table. Much like how stat blocks just reference the poisoned condition instead of spelling its rules out each time. Yeah, there's a proper name for them. I think they tend to be called sidebars even though they're not on the side. It's just thinking about it now, it seems odd. Right, yes. Much like how stat blocks just reference the poisoned condition instead of spelling its rules out each time. We didn't want to fill up the pages by repeating long sentences similar to this one. A target poisoned in this way can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. Hey Gav, welcome to the stream. And thank you for your host. Flanked condition. Some creatures in this book list flanked as a condition immunity. If your game uses the optional flanking rules in the core rules, then a creature with this immunity can't be flanked. I am doing well, thank you. I'm a little tired. I had an early start today because I went into the office. But yes, I'm doing well. Pronouns. The core rules. Words. Next time, kitten, remind me. Next time, I'm adding a counter. The core rules often use the singular pronoun it to refer to a single creature. This book instead uses they to clearly delineate between creatures and objects. Objects still use it as a singular pronoun. I mean, you don't have to, Kim. But I will forget. Action-oriented. I still think that should be orientated, not oriented. I think oriented is an American word. Action-orientated creatures. The solo and leader creatures presented in this book are designed to be bosses, enemies that can take on an entire party by themselves or with a handful of underlings. Rather than simply increasing CR, an approach that often leads to underwhelming encounters, this book introduces action-orientated creatures. A powerful villain needs plenty of opportunities to act and move when it's not their turn. This is due to the way that 5e works, action economy, blah-de-blah. Thus, each action-orientated creature has at least one special bonus action and reaction, as well as a special section with villain actions that let them dominate the battlefield. These actions I don't know if you see my gesticulation. I'm doing it anyway, even if you don't see it. These actions make the boss creatures dynamic and formidable. Whether fought as an exciting solo challenge or alongside a few easy-to-run underlings, action-orientated creatures challenge the players with dramatic and powerful actions in combat. Villain actions. Every action-orientated creature has 3 villain actions. They can use after an enemy creature's turn. Villain actions are similar to legendary actions with the following exceptions. A creature can only use 1 villain action per round. As such, villain actions tend to be more powerful than legendary actions. As a point in note, I think some of their plans include creatures that have both villain actions and legendary actions. Certainly very high level ones anyway. Each villain action can only be used once during a combat encounter. And this is what makes them dramatic. Each set of villain actions has a recommended round order. These abilities give the battle a logical flow and a cinematic arc, which is what I was talking about earlier. The first villain action is an opener, which shows the characters they are not battling a typical creature. Openers generally deal some damage, summon a lackey or 3, buff the boss, debuff the characters, or move the creature into an advantageous position. They are just a taste of what's to come. The second villain action provides crowd control. It typically fires after the heroes have had a chance to respond once or twice, get into position, and surround the villain. This second action helps the villain regain the upper hand. Like an opener, this action comes in many flavours, but is even more powerful than an opener. The other thing I haven't worked out is whether me moving my hands causes the camera to jog. I don't think it jogs too much. The third and final villain action is an ultimate move, or ult. A showstopper the villain can use to deal a devastating blow to the creatures before the end of the battle. While every creature has a recommended order of actions, you can take villain actions in any order if it makes your fight more dramatic. You could push back a villain action if a creature is stunned, or might stay alive for more than 3 rounds. Or you could perform the recommended third action in round 2 after several surprise critical hits. So there's a bit of flexibility. Unique creatures. The action-orientated creatures in this book are unique. They typically have a specific name and backstory, though you can ignore these if you wish to use the creature's stat block in another way in your campaign. For instance, Queen Bardno's stat block could be used for any action-orientated goblin in your game. Companion creatures. I need a drink. I also need to trim my moustache, because every time I take a drink of tea, I get droplets left on my moustache. And it's not terribly professional, like to just go like this every time on stream, because you know. Companion creatures. Companions are wild allies that adventure with characters. Each companion has unique traits and actions that make them a great ally. But beware. These creatures can be difficult to control in the heat of battle and might just bite the hand that feeds it. There needs to be an it. Bite the hand that feeds it, or them. That's the proper phrase. Anyway, don't fret too much though. A companion gelatinous tube. Words. A companion gelatinous cube or owlbear is worth the risk of an occasional wild rampage. Hello Biscuits and Gift of Gabby. Welcome to my stream. We are reading MCDM's, the preview for MCDM's current Kickstarter, Flea Mortals, which is their monster book for D&D 5th edition. We're going through it, I'm commenting on it, I'm being absolutely hilarious. I'm not. And Biscuit, we reckon you should check this out. We think you'll find it interesting. You've got 3 days left on the Kickstarter. Half your players die on Tuesday. You're excited? Yeah. I'm excited as well, because a lot of this takes after the 4th edition stuff, and I was very keen on the 4th edition monsters. I love the way that they laid those out. And to the point that I've spent, particularly after watching Matt Colville's video on using 4th edition stuff in 5th edition, I've spent a lot of time trying to convert 4th edition creatures or modifying 5th edition creatures with 4th edition stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this book, because it basically does that job for me. Yeah, Curse of Strahd is brutal. Yeah. So, where were we? Yes. A companion gelatinous cube or owlbear is worth the risk of an occasional wild rampage. And I think, yeah, we're going to get the rules on this. 1 companion per group. Companions are a lot of fun, but having more than 1 companion to manage can slow things down at the table. A companion is another member of the party with statistics and actions to track, and additional companions can easily make combat slow to a crawl. If every player wants to get in on the companion action, it's simpler for the characters to take turns being one creature's caregiver, rather than running around adventuring with a menagerie. I know how to say that word. I very nearly didn't say it correctly. Very nearly said it menagerie, which is Weird. Anyway. For characters wishing to share a companion, the companion accepts a new caregiver at the end of a short or long rest. Because a companion's proficiency bonus and hit points depend on their caregiver's level, those statistics might fluctuate if the characters in a party are different levels, reflecting that a more experienced caregiver is more adept at directing a companion. Ooh, more I think about it, Kitten, you should put a link to John's GoFundMe. So that people can donate if they want to. And I got very angry earlier with the person who decided to impersonate you to try and steal people's money. I say I got very angry. I reported them a number of times and then donated. Caregiver. Yeah, it looked like a bot, to be honest, because they kept changing their Twitter handle. There you go. There's the link that Kitten has just posted. To raise money for a last trip out to Pasadena, I think. Before that no longer is possible. So, please consider donating, and your donations will be gratefully received. Caregiver. Every companion has a player character caregiver who commands the creature. The caregiver's player controls the companion most of the time during the game, though the GM can step in to take control if the companion and caregiver are separated, or if the caregiver mistreats the companion in some way. Don't mistreat your companion. In combat, a companion shares a turn with their caregiver and acts during the caregiver's turn. A companion can move and use their own reaction and bonus action independently, but they can only take dash, disengage, or dodge actions unless their caregiver uses a bonus action to command the companion to take a different action, including any of the actions noted in the companion stat block. More or less standard rules. A companion must be able to see or hear their caregiver to receive a command. A companion can also take other actions if their caregiver is incapacitated or if the companion enters a rampage as discussed below. Charmed caregiver. A caregiver who is charmed can still command their companion, but they can't command the companion to attack a creature that charmed them. Very sensible. Incapacitated or absent caregiver. If a companion's caregiver is incapacitated or dies, the GM determines who controls the companion. Typically, the caregiver's player can maintain control of their companion as they take a heroic stand against the enemy. However, in cases where a caregiver and their companion are physically separated, such as when a companion is captured, the GM may wish to take control of the companion to keep the player in suspense about the creature's fate. People will have opinions about that, I am sure. At the GM's discretion, a companion can abandon a caregiver character and choose a different willing creature as a caregiver. Ferocity. Note the rolled R's. Companions are dangerous creatures. Though often more docile than their wild counterparts, they aren't fully domesticated. Each companion's ferocity, which should have been done with a roll down, but I didn't, is a measure of their tenacity and fury, and of how those things build in battle. As a companion's ferocity increases, they gain access to powerful new actions, but they also become more difficult for a caregiver to control. If a companion isn't incapacitated at the start of their and their caregiver's turn, their ferocity increases by 1d4, plus the number of hostile creatures within 5 feet of the companion that they can see or hear. That's quite a significant, potentially quite a significant increase each turn. For the purpose of increasing ferocity, a group of creatures that share a single stat block, such as a swarm of rats, count as one creature. Ferocity increases round after round during combat, and there is no maximum to the level of ferocity a companion can gain. Rules, rules, rules. Are you getting bored already, Biscuit? What I should do, Biscuit, is link you to this preview so you can read it for your own, on your own time. There you go. This is this PDF, the preview. It is free. Also, I'm reading through it, so you know you can watch back this mod afterwards. Rampage. After rolling to increase ferocity at the start of their turn, if a companion has 10 ferocity or more and isn't incapacitated, they run the risk of entering a rampage. Try saying that with rolled R's. They run the risk of entering a rampage. The companion's caregiver can make a wisdom animal handling check, no action required, to try to stop the companion from entering a rampage. To make the check, the caregiver must not be incapacitated, and the companion must be able to see or hear the caregiver. The DC for the check equals 5, plus the companion's ferocity. On a success, the companion acts normally on their turn. Failure, or if the caregiver doesn't make the check, the companion enters a rampage. When a companion enters a rampage, they immediately move up to their speed towards the nearest creature they can sense and attack that creature with their signature attack. see below. Hello! Welcome, Aland Alice. Welcome to my stream. Thank you for coming. We are reading through the preview of MCDM's new Kickstarter book, Flea Mortals. The Kickstarter is running for another 3 days. I'm glad you think so, Biscuit. I am very excited for this book. It's already funded. It's already gone past their first 2 stretch goals. Words. There you go. Thank you, kitten. Link to the Kickstarter. I'm not sponsored or anything, by the way. I'm just really excited for this book. So I thought I'd go through. Well, I hadn't read this preview. I flicked through it. And I thought, well, I want to read it. I want to take the time to read it. And I can share my excitement at the same time with other people while streaming. So there you go. So that's what I'm doing. Right, so where did we get to? So when they enter a rampage, they immediately move up to their speed towards the nearest creature they can sense and attack that creature with their signature attack, dealing extra damage equal to half their ferocity if the attack hits. If at least one ally and one enemy are nearest and equidistant to the companion, the caregiver's player rolls on any die. On an odd number, the companion attacks an ally. On an even number, the companion attacks an enemy. This is the trade-off. Could you ask a small off-topic question? You can ask, and depending on the question, I may answer. The caregiver's player determines which specific equidistant ally or enemy the companion engages and can choose their own character if they so wish. Bag of rats. We can already tell that some crafty players are scheming to stuff a bag full of slightly groggy rats, then open that bag up in front of your companion to build up ferocity during a fight. However, a too easy target doesn't rile up a companion the way being threatened by an enemy combatant in a battle for survival does. As such, the GM makes the final determination as to what constitutes a hostile creature for the purpose of increasing a companion's ferocity. Likewise, in the same way a swarm of creatures is counted as a single creature for the purpose of increasing ferocity, the GM is free to determine that 2 or 3 weak creatures may count as only one creature for that purpose. I like that ruling. That is very cunning. For low-level spells, what do you feel is the most important to have take on your list? There are a lot of spells that do similar things. Just thought I'd ask some people what they tend to grab. Right. Okay, so firstly, I tend to think, does my character have a theme? So I have one character which is a sword mage. Which is a class that I converted from 4th edition. He has a tendency towards fire spells, so I tend to go with that sort of theme initially. But he's over time learning other elemental things. Words. I have a storm sorcerer. And I almost exclusively pick wind, lightning, or cold spells for them. So that's one consideration I make. Another is I compare spells for mechanical benefit. Bearing in mind how often I'm going to use them and what choices I have. So for instance, for a wizard, yeah, you can have any number of spells in your spellbook, but you've then got to prepare a much smaller number. And actually what I tend to find is that I tend to pick the same spells all the time. Usually there's a few range spells, a few crowd control spells, a couple of utility spells. So most of my spellcasters at some point will have Featherfall, because that's incredibly useful. Other than that, I just tend to think about what sort of situations I'm likely to get in and who the character is. So my sword mage, Archimedes, he's more of an intellectual. So I have some spells that are themed in that direction. So he has things like Identify, Detect Magic, Comprehend Languages, Arcane Lock, Knock, those sort of things. They're more utility spells. Although one benefit of a sword mage is that he gets a lot of his combat capability from melee attacks. So he can afford to take more utility spells. Whereas when you've got a full spellcaster, so the sword mage is a half caster. With a full caster, you're going to focus more on combat spells. Or at least I do, because combat is where I get most of my interest from in terms of the game. So yes, I will focus on that. As I get towards higher level, and if I make a character specifically at a higher level, for a one-shot, for instance, the lower level spells will tend to be more utility spells, because I'm less likely to use those for combat. Does that answer your question? Hopefully that was an interesting answer. Right. So, back to this. So, we're talking about a companion that enters a rampage. A companion who can't reach a creature to attack while in a rampage uses the dash action to move as far as they can towards the nearest creature they can sense. If a companion can't sense any potential targets, they move as far as they can in the random direction determined by the GM, avoiding danger. Makes sense. When a companion who has entered a rampage resolves their action or ends their turn, their ferocity drops to 0 and they are no longer in the rampage. So this is the trade-off. You try and prevent the creature from entering a rampage, unless you specifically want that, but it's more effective not to. Or you try and build ferocity so that you can use that ferocity for reactions, which I think we're about to explain. Reducing ferocity. To prevent a companion from entering a dangerous rampage, a caregiver has several options at their disposal for reducing the creature's ferocity. Ferocity actions. Each companion has 3 actions in their stat block that cost ferocity to use. I think so. Just working through a build stuff for new players, so I'm trying to choose spells that give them all-round kind of function, so it's hard to say what's best to give. Okay. Yeah, in that case, for new players, I would focus on combat spells. I'm assuming that you're starting them low level, because giving a new player a higher level spellcaster is just going to confuse them. Yes, level 1. Okay. So, yeah, I would focus on 1 range spell, and in fact there's a number of cantrips that are good for that. Things like Ray of Frost is a great cantrip as a range spell. And in fact, when you're level 1, I would focus on using cantrips primarily for your combat. And your first level spells tend to be more, if you want a big impact, or you stand a good chance of causing damage. I'm trying to think what I got my Storm Sorcerer for his first level spells. Give me a sec, and I will have a look. Right. Let's look at both Garrick and Archimedes. So, Garrick. So cantrips. Cantrips for my Storm Sorcerer. At level 1, he had 5 cantrips because he's an Aasimar. So Light came from being an Aasimar, and then we've got Gust, Mending, Message, and Ray of Frost. So mostly utility, but you got Ray of Frost as the your primary combat spell. And then the first level spells I chose there were Ice Knife and Witch Bolt. which Ice Knife gives you a nice small range of damage, and Witch Bolt is a single target but really good. If you can hit with a Witch Bolt, then yeah, it's nice over multiple rounds. Archimedes. What did I give Archimedes? So Archimedes has this thing called Arcane Techniques. Which is a sort of cantrips thing. So that's not gonna match over, but first level spells in his spellbook: Cure Wounds, Featherfall, Ice Knife, things like that, and there are a few custom spells. So yeah, I tend to. There's invariably one or two utilities, and there'll be one or two combat. So I try to go for a broad selection, but again, it depends on theme. If you've got somebody who's a very aggressive spellcaster, you just go all out combat, and there are going to be some situations where they find that they can't do anything. Although I wouldn't give that to a first level. So there you go. That's my thoughts. Right, where were we? Frosty actions. Each companion has 3 actions in the stat block that cost ferocity to use. To use one of these ferocity actions, a companion must have a caregiver with a character level equal to or greater than the ferocity action's level. They must spend the necessary amount of ferocity before they use the action. If the companion doesn't have enough ferocity to spend, they can't use the action. Straightforward stuff. Ferocity actions always use the companion's action, meaning they can't be used as part of an opportunity attack. Ferocity actions can't be used while a companion is in a rampage. Makes sense. End of combat. When a combat encounter involving a companion ends, and the companion isn't dying, the companion regains hit points equal to their ferocity, and their ferocity drops to 0. The GM determines when a combat encounter ends, typically at the point when the creatures stop acting in initiative order. Can make sense. Dying companions. When a companion is reduced to 0 hit points, they're dying and make death saving throws just as characters do. Characters thus always have a chance to save their furry or scaly or slimy or ectoskeletonly friends' lives. If combat ends while a companion is dying, their ferocity drops to 0, but they don't regain hit points. Okay, so they're incapacitated. Or unconscious, rather. And they still had to be stabilized. Makes sense. Statistics. In addition to their ferocity actions, a companion's statistics vary from the statistics of their wild counterparts, for obvious reasons. This makes a companion easier to run and keeps their power in line with other companions, even as it helps ensure companions never... It's a strange phraseology. This makes a companion easier to run and keeps their power in line with other companions, even as it helps ensure companions never outshine the characters, which is important. Same thing with psychics in core rules. As somewhat more social versions of wild creatures, companions are often cleverer and more versatile than their untamed counterparts. Hit dice. Most creatures without character classes have their hit dice determined by their size. D4 for tiny, D6 for small, and so forth. Companions are special and use a D8 for hit dice regardless of size, because that keeps them in line with character. Kind of. No, it doesn't. It makes them uniform. There we go. Language. A companion shares a unique bond with their caregiver and can understand basic commands in one language chosen by the caregiver. The companion can't read, speak, or write any language, even if similar creatures normally can. Proficiency bonus. Because a companion's effectiveness and survivability depend on the training and expertise of their caregiver, a companion's proficiency bonus is equal to their caregiver's proficiency bonus. Right. Caregiver's proficiency bonus. I paused in the wrong spot there. Additionally, some of a companion's statistics refer to their proficiency bonus, abbreviated as PB. Other statistics use a number of dice equal to a companion's proficiency bonus, and are expressed with PB in place of the number of dice. For example, if a companion has a +2 proficiency bonus, PB D6 means 2d6. Shorthand, basically. Signature attack. Each companion has an action designated as their signature attack. A signature attack is always a melee action, and typically the creature's best natural attack. A companion uses their signature attack when they enter a rampage. Each companion has special actions that they can use only by spending ferocity during their turn, with some of those actions making use of the companion's signature attack. See Reducing Ferocity above for more information on those actions. I did say I was going to end at 10:30. There's a lot more stuff on companions here. But I think we'll leave it at the mounts. Mental note, folks. Next time, start at companion mounts. Now, next time I do one of these streams where I'm reading this, which will probably be Tuesday, the Kickstarter will have finished. So I recommend, if you haven't already, if you do want this, and you want to support the Kickstarter, go do so now. Kitten perfectly on there. She's a wonderful mod. There you go. That's the link. Yeah. So I think I will probably leave it there. In the meantime, I recommend that you should follow all my friends, which Kitten will probably beat me to typing out the command. See? Told you. They're all wonderful people. Mike, having just started a new job, is adjusting to that, but is at the moment streaming at the weekends. Kitten streams most days in the morning. I say morning, this is assuming a UK time zone. If you're not in UK, adjust as appropriate. Biscuit streams fairly regularly, and you should definitely follow him. K of Double K streams every day during the week from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Fliss streams when she wants, and Connor and Essa both stream occasionally, and usually D&D related stuff, although Connor also does music streams when he's not busy. I need to add Cozy to that list, and probably some other people besides. So there you go. Thank you everybody for coming along. Thank you for all your lurks. I've had more viewers for this stream than I've had in a very long time. I am very grateful to. Obviously this is a good thing to do. Other things that I tend to do along these lines, I have my own D&D world that I'm gradually developing the lore for. I need to write up the notes that I made in previous streams before I do any more to it. But then I will do some future world building streams that will add to that. Most of the time, however, I stream Guild Wars 2. At the weekends I do so with Mike. Oh, and if you don't know, I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Normally from 7 p.m. It's been a bit off the last few weeks. That's life for you. Yeah. I think I've said all I need to say. Thank you very much. And I will bid you a good night.